So Better Call Saul is finally back after the long wait, and once again, we have another season opener that opens with a scene from post-Walter White time in black and white. I always get goosebumps when these scenes start, because it feels like the most Breaking Bad related, and you're always just wondering, what are they going to reveal here? Where is this story going? So it picks up right from when Gene collapsed in the Cinnabon. And what's brilliant about this scene is the song playing in the background by the Ink Spots called We Three. And the song's repeating the lyrics of a person very lonely with his echo, shadow, and himself. And that he's missing the girl he loves. This is clearly Jimmy's current state of mind in this timeline. And that song, even in a sense, just worries me about what ends up happening to Kim. Where is Kim? Because he's clearly thinking about her still. That is his true love. So we then see him in the hospital bed, and your heart's already racing as a viewer because you know he's under a secret identity. This could be what exposes him. Everything he's done with Walter White. But he finds out he didn't have a heart attack. It's a false alarm. So just when you think, okay, he's in the clear and he's about to get out of this hospital, the receptionist stops him. And it was a perfect ditz of a receptionist to make this super suspenseful. Especially the line where she's like, I typed the letter O instead of a 0, referring to her typing in his social security number. And Better Call Saul has always been a great show with camera work. And I love here to build up the suspense of how Jimmy's feeling, how it zooms in on his face when he's talking to the receptionist, really showing how anxious and worried he is that he's completely screwed and she's going to find out who he really is. And what's amazing about this whole sequence is Jimmy's comfort zone is talking his way out of things, and that's his strength. And he cannot do any of that in this new life of laying low. So it's all going against his grain. And you start even to feel for him because he can't even feel safe in a cab ride home. And then when he's in the cab driver, that was terrifying with him looking through that mirror, and he has the Albuquerque air freshener. So right there, you know, oh my God, this guy knows who's in his back seat and is watching Jimmy. And a great line Jimmy has here is like, it's a green light and the car's not moving. I was shaking. Like, oh my God, what is this guy going to do to him? And Jimmy makes the right move of getting out of that car. Then it cuts to the opening credits, and I was like, oh no, like, such a tease. Like, just anytime they show that black and white time frame and it being post Breaking Bad, I think, which makes it so thrilling, I always just want more of that. It's so exciting. And then you just wonder when again they're going to show it. But that was the best opening this show has had yet. So then it was a really nice touch when we go to present day Jimmy, where we get the ashes floating over Kim and Jimmy in bed from Chuck's house. So it's a nice little reminder about where we are, what just happened, what they don't even know yet. So then we see Jimmy's got some light coffee, happy music on. He's in a good state of mind. He's with his girl, feeding the little goldfish that seems very happy and aloof. He's looking for a new job in the paper. Seems like he's feeling better than ever. And this is Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad's forte, where they're great at sequences like this that show someone's mindset really, really well. Then, just like that, his phone rings with a call from Howard Hamlin. He doesn't answer. You know what that call is about immediately. And then he calls Kim's answering machine and says he needs to speak to Jimmy. It's about Chuck. And Jimmy flies over to the house. And this is the game changer we needed in this show. We were all wondering what would strike the match to really overdrive this transition now of Jimmy into Saul. And Chuck killing himself is exactly that. This is going to shape all these characters now to how they react to such a serious situation. And that's what gives me super hope about this season. So Kim says to Jimmy outside on the bench, somehow this lantern fell over in the house. So there, you know, the authorities aren't even aware that this was a suicide. But Jimmy's like, did you see the backyard? All the electric stuff's back there. The firemen weren't the ones who put that out. Jimmy's like, something must have happened. Something made him relapse. And Jimmy's like, I saw him 5 days ago. He was listening to jazz, he seemed himself, and he was using electricity, the lights worked. So Jimmy's saying that something made him relapse. Jimmy knows what this is while he's saying it. He knows it was the insurance situation that he caused. And what's great about all this is this episode is setting us up to see how far Jimmy will go. And in this episode to see how upset really is Jimmy about Chuck actually dying now. So now we flip to Mike Ehrmantraut's story, and he's done being a parking lot attendant. And I love these scenes that it cuts to of Mike with his granddaughter. It really does make him likable, and it's really the thing he cares about most in the world, more than himself. Isn't that a weird contrast he has from Jimmy, where Jimmy, I'm starting to really believe, cares about himself over anybody, even Kim, where you can truly believe Mike actually puts that granddaughter over Mike. You can even relate this, which we learned about Mike a little bit in Breaking Bad too, comparing it to Walter White, where Walter White put himself first. But here's my problem. I complained about this last season, and I'm already getting annoyed with it again. A lot of this Mike storyline frustrates me. This whole episode, we get to see him in his new job as a security consultant for Madrigal Electromotive. And we learn he's good at this. But does this make for the most compelling storyline and make his story in the show any more interesting? Not to me. I feel like it really slows down a lot of the momentum in this show, cutting to these Mike scenes. This still feels like two separate shows. The Mike Ehrmantraut show and the Saul Goodman show. What gives me hope, though, about this problem I've had with this show about it feeling like two separate shows that we see in the season trailer, that Mike and Jimmy are going to work together a lot this season. So that's giving me hope. So I'm hoping that this cutting to Mike scenes of showing him he's good at his work or he's doing something that makes him more confirmed he's a tough guy, which we've seen over and over, that will end soon and we'll get to now how him and Jimmy build their relationship up, because a lot of it feels like filler with him. And I wasn't crazy about some of the music in this episode. What was with that cheesy 90s action movie music when Mike's sitting on the chair watching TV? That was strange for anything in the Breaking Bad universe to have such a weird score. So then we get this really interesting scene with Howard Hamlin reading to Jimmy over the phone the obituary he's written for Chuck. This is a telltale scene into how Jimmy still thinks of his brother and chooses to still focus on the negative of his brother, and the contrast of how Hamlin chooses to look at the positive, saying all these glorious things in the obituary. Jimmy literally puts the phone down, doesn't even want to hear it. And what this to me is showing is this helps Jimmy more and more clear his conscience. It's like when you break up with an ex and you're telling yourself the bad things about them to make them missing them easier. This is the opposite, where Hamlin's reminding himself of all the good at Chuck, making this harder, where Jimmy takes out an approach like acting like this didn't even happen and that Chuck was completely bad. This is a way for Jimmy to clear his conscience, and this is also a way Hamlin is developing a guilty conscience. And a brilliant thing they got going on this whole episode is this little goldfish in Kim's house just floating behind Jimmy in this scene. To me, it symbolizes Jimmy's behavior here, and that he is trying to get to this after this tragedy where, like this fish, he's just floating aloof to the beat of his own drum. And then we get to see Kim and Jimmy and see Kim's reaction to Chuck dying and how she's coping with it, and they sit together to take shots. Kim is still my favorite character in this show. She's so pure and innocent and so likable, and it makes it even more harder for you to just know Jimmy is gonna hurt her even more when it's someone he should be treasuring and really valuing over anything. And what's brilliant about this show and the writing of Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould is they have a way of telling you something without any dialogue. Just a simple thing of them drinking together. Kim pours herself a shot, and then she pours Jimmy a shot, and Jimmy's sitting a further away distance from the drinks, and then she taps the couch for him to come over, and then he does, but he only takes one shot and leaves the shot in the exact spot. And then on the side, you get a little montage of Kim getting blasted and passes out right next to him, which was hysterical. But his glass didn't move. He only had one shot and she finished the bottle. So she's clearly feeling the loss of Chuck. And again, probably in a similar mindset to Hamlin, where Jimmy doesn't need all that liquor right now. He just didn't even want to drink. His thoughts are fine in his head. His conscience is clearing at an alarming rate. So that showed that to me really well. So all these little things they're showing you of Jimmy is hinting towards that final scene where we see Jimmy finally come out with how he really feels about Chuck and all this. So you're getting hints constantly. So then we cut to the Nacho aftermath of a failed attempt at killing Hector. I love how when we first see Nacho again, Gus is just eyeing him, and you can tell Gus is just onto him, and that Gus would stop and then look back and keep looking at him, and you feel that tension, and you know Nacho's just trying to get rid of those pills. So Bombosa says Salamanca territory is still Salamanca territory. And what's so great is he says the line "nothing changes," and that line is typed on the screen right in front of Gus, basically knowing he's going to be the cause that does change this and that this won't last. And then Gus has like a Yoda type line where he's like, someone will move against Salamanca, which brings war, which brings chaos, which brings the DEA. And he's right. Gus is not having this. He's a mastermind. He knows this is his chance to pounce and take over. And then we see Nacho goes to throw this poison into the reservoir. Is he an idiot just doing this right out in the open? Why wouldn't he do this somewhere in private? And again, what is with that cheesy 90s action movie music playing here again when he's throwing these pills out? But even this storyline to me is not that intriguing. Having them constantly talk about the drug trade and moving different drugs and seeing Gus take over, it's kind of just showing you like, yeah, this is how you expected things to happen and how Gus got where he got. And same thing with Ermintrout. I feel like those two storylines aren't as creative as they've been doing and as focused as they've been doing with Saul. So then we see a scene of an employee of Madrigal goes outside to go to work and his kid needs help with his messed up bike. Then he puts his suitcase down to help the kid. But when he goes in his car, his badge is missing from his suitcase and the car won't start. Can someone explain to me, did Mike actually run and grab that suitcase when he was helping the kid with his bike and get the badge out at that time? Or did he get out the night before and broke in the house? This really confused me. That'd be super impressive if he did. But if someone can confirm for me what happened or what they might think happened, how Mike got that badge, and when did he sneak into the car to have it not work? Because sure, he could have done it any time, but when did he get in that suitcase? So scene at the end, Hamlin shows up to Kim's house and meets with Jimmy and Kim, and he says he knew how to use those lanterns. I don't think what happened was an accident. And then he reveals to them that Chuck wasn't retiring from HHM, but was being pushed out, specifically by him. Spot on acting here by Patrick Fabian. Probably his best work on the show yet. And Kim's like, Chuck was sick for years. And after the bar hearing, and then Hamlin stops her and is like, the bar hearing had nothing to do with it. So what she's been playing in her conscience and in her mind about Chuck kind of gets put to a halt. And this is the most honest we've seen Hamlin ever in this show. And he shares the insurance found out about Chuck's condition and raised their rates. And then Jimmy's, here we go, Saul Goodman coming out. He's just has that look on his face and asking what he already knows about the insurance. He just almost wants to confirm it and hear it. And almost is sickly feeling proud of it. And Hammond's like, it never occurred to me that I can hurt him. I think he did what he did because of me. And then Saul Goodman comes out to play and he literally says, well, that's your cross to bear. Look on Kim's face and Hamlin's face after says it all. That was such a shocking big moment and it was so earned. Everything in this episode and in past seasons built up to that powerful line. Really shows you now where Jimmy's head is at. It's an incredibly rude thing to say to someone too who's pouring their soul out and is struggling with this heavy guilt and saying, yeah, you're right, it is your fault. And then Jimmy goes to feed that goldfish and he's like, look at her go. This is him, this fish. He's feeling like that. And he's whistling clear conscience. And you know in his head he's thinking, screw Hamlin, screw Chuck. Kim's face again. She's really blown away by this. And this is a big red flag of who this man really is. Now I'm really feeling like Saul Goodman is entering here. How far will he take this behavior? And it scares you because if he's able to treat people that are supposed to be close to him in his life like this, I know Chuck wasn't the goodest of guys, but it's still his own brother. And be able to wipe this off clean like that makes you worry about what he might end up doing to Kim. He's a master of denial to himself, to get to a clear conscience and to do what he has to do to get to the next step for him. And it's a great ending shot with Kim just staring at him, witnessing this sociopathic behavior. Great, great scene. So basically, everything with Jimmy in this episode I loved, and my highlights clearly was the opening sequence, which was fantastic, and that last scene, fantastic. This transition of Jimmy to Saul is thrilling, and it feels a lot like when Walter White was first transitioning to Heisenberg. And how it affects Kim is huge to me because she is so much more likable than Skylar ever was in Breaking Bad. So that's a new great choice they made in Better Call Saul, where having the love interest actually be someone you like and care for, really actually making, at points, Jimmy seem more like a prick than Walter White ever was, because you also didn't like Skylar, where it's hard to ever root against Kim. However, like I complained about last season, Nacho Mike storylines drag to me and always feel like, oh yeah, this is what you think happened to get to Breaking Bad, and that's what happened. They haven't been doing anything shocking yet with that or adding enough layers to it. It's kind of just been lazy and filler-esque to me. It almost feels like a greatest hits and still feels like a separate show. It bogs it down from true greatness. However, seeing the season trailer where we see Jimmy and Mike are going to spend a lot of time together, I have high hopes for this to get to full greatness soon. The ceiling is super high here. This premiere will be an 8.4 for me. Let me know what you guys thought down below. What did you think of this premiere? Are you excited for the rest of the season? Give me any of your theories, thoughts. I'd love to hear from all you guys. I read every comment and respond to as many as I can. Please subscribe. My review of each episode of Saul will be posted right after it airs, so you don't want to miss one. And follow me at SteveVarley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more. And I'll see you next time.